I continue my comment of the preface to the Phenomenology of Spirit by uh, I would like to explain that the Phenomenology of Spirit is not the book by Hegel. It is the very world in which we live, and I use again Spinoza's words that there is one substance, one being underlying all phenomena, and human beings are modes of this one infinite substance. They are windows of consciousness in relation to the all other modes and the state of being within the substance, and the thoughts that we have are reflections of the our point of view on the whole of being, what we see and what we understand and what we feel and what we comprehend from our point of view. And my purpose with this video is to try to bring my view of the totality in order to elevate the consciousness of the individuals to the self-contemplation of the substance, and this movement of mind contemplating itself in its totality is what we call God. And Hegel talks about, in my previous video, the sound was cut off. So I just said that the purpose of the movement of consciousness was to transform philosophy, which is the love of wisdom, into actual, effective, wirklich knowledge, to become cognizant. I'm sorry if that's not an English word. To have the cognition, the intellectual cognition of being, and this is the purpose of the movement of consciousness. And then he says that he talks about the minds or the souls who talk about an intuition of the divine. You have on the internet or these gurus or these enlightened beings who talk about their feeling of God or their feeling of religion or their feeling of spirituality, and they seem to be very happy and to be in unity with the substantial life and to be joyful and all that. But Hegel tells us that this is they are giving birth to dreams. They may be on the wavelength of the universal love of God, but Hegel says that we should follow the path of the negative, which is to be plunged into the substance and to use our rationality to reconstruct this feeling of the totality and to implement rationality, which is a negative moment, and not let ourselves be transcended by a feeling, indeterminate feeling of some spiritual presence, because it's not like we have a choice. Those who want to go to the full logical conclusion of the movement, they have to implement rationality and to conceptualize, to go through the empirical, physical sciences, the political battles, the political struggles, the economic views of things, and those spiritual leaders and teachers that you find on the internet, they want you to access immediately a feeling of the divine, but it's all well and good, and it's elevating for the soul and for the heart, and it gives hope. But from my point of view, this is the end that you should seek. But you cannot escape the movement of the negative, which is plunging yourself into the substance and conceptually grasping the whole of being and going through all the stages. Yeah, and then he talks about the current state of spirit, and mankind has been separated from God because of the negative with which I identify, but that's another story. That men live separated from the feeling of the unity with God, and in the past, but that's kind of a mythology, but there was a substantial presence, and it's a historical period that he talks about, that man had the view of the unity of all things through a mythology, through a religious views of the world, where the cosmos was organized and there were the spiritual realms, and life might have been miserable, but there was meaning to it, and there was a sense of man's place within a divinely hierarchical order, and this feeling of having one's place in the cosmos has been lost by the movement of modern rationality, and the plunging of the eye of spirit down into the earthly, which is the development of modern empirical sciences. And this has brought about the downfall of the feeling of divine unity with all things, and what the pagan called the loss of the magical aspect of nature. They imagine that people lived in a kind of unity with an animistic presence in nature, with the world soul, or the soul of nature, of a universal feeling of the divine within nature and the beauty and harmony of nature, and that modern science has destroyed this. But the purpose uh, with Hegel's philosophy is to re-establish the numinous, which is the magical presence in nature and in the mind of man, but by going through a process of conceptual understanding. And well, there Hegel is kind of a manipulator, because he talks about the beautiful, the holy, the eternal, the religion, love, but the work of the negative, in order to arrive at this state of mind and state of consciousness, well, the path of the negative is the path of pain and suffering, because you have to be confronted by the worst aspects of being, which is tragedy, horror, pain, violence, and you have to find the strength to conceptualize and to understand. It's very difficult not to judge, but the more you understand, the easiest it is not to judge. But that's a Herculean task, a very difficult task. But yeah. So yeah, then he talks about the presence of the divine, and he talks about the prophetic speeches, and we find this on the internet. People talking about the new age, the a new dimension, the age of what planet, or the age of Aquarius, or I don't know what, or the end times, and they want to create a sense of having a self-revelation. And those people might have a vague view of the truth, because truth is religious and philosophical, but the real truth consists in the self movement of consciousness, and by capturing and conceptualizing and incorporating within the mind all the moments of consciousness. You cannot have, I mean, there are people who follow those religious prophets, those so-called self-inspired, or those who have received divine revelation, and they can predict the future, and they know about the unfolding of all events. But what I am trying to do with my view of Hegelianism is to incorporate the pragmatic aspects of existence: politics, economics, empirical physics, chemistry, biology, sociobiology, in a global worldview, which in the end the purpose is to fulfill the religious view, because Hegelianism teaches us that philosophy and religion have the same content, but that religion is truth for the masses, for the many, and philosophy is truth for the select few, for those who want to go through the path of cognitive understanding. And this is what gives its worth to human existence, to conceptualize the suffering inherent in reality, and to reconcile oneself, not by hoping for some divine intervention and divine grace, but by understanding the inherent necessity and rationality uh, in the world, and to become one with the movement of the life of the absolute. And this is the true liberation, and it occurs through cognitive understanding. So yeah, he says that spirit is never at rest, but it's in a constant state of movement and of development, because um, every thought which is not absolute contains in itself opposite determinations, and there's no station, no fixed set state of mind which can bring satisfaction. And that's why people are so lost in the modern world, especially in the West, because they have lost their religion, they have lost their faith, and they are seeking answers in spiritual movements or in practical things like economy. They think that capitalism will bring them salvation or whatever. So they are lost. They have lost their essence, so to speak. And what I want, that's kind of ironic to say that, because from my point of view, I am uh, the negative moment, but my purpose is to elevate the substance to the full consciousness of itself, and to reconcile by rational justification and rational proof of the workings of God in the world, to reconcile men with themselves, with God, and with their own self-consciousness in God. And yeah. Yeah, I will stop there for now. But um, the thing to understand is that Hegel's book titled The Phenomenology of Spirit is itself a manifestation of the living spirit, the present spirit, and it enables us to conceptualize what happens. So my piece of advice would be read Hegel, and at the same time read the news, read the books, the movies which come out, talk with people, think about your own personal experience, and try to connect the dots by looking at the broad picture that I'm trying to share. And my purpose, my role, I know, is simply to connect the dots and to try to redeem myself by bringing the full consciousness of being to mankind, and that of his own essence. And as being a negative moment, this is the best that I can do. It's uh, to 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 show my point of view, so that others can reflect their point of view upon me, and this dialectical interaction is the whole movement of spirit and of reason. So yeah.